Welcome to The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. Here's your host, the biggest record nerd of them all, Nate Goyer.
Oh, well, hey, everyone, it's Nate. Welcome to episode 524 of The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. And, dear people, today we are very happy to be welcoming on the show Mr. Randy Holden. And if you don't know Randy, you most certainly will know the influence of his work. Early in his career in the late 60s, Randy was amongst the most in-demand guitarists in rock music. He was recruited to be in Blue Cheer. He nearly joined the Yardbirds. And he put out one of the most collectible records of the 70s rock genre and then just disappeared. Literally, for decades. His work is universally highly revered. The records and recordings he's on are incredible, quite timeless, in fact. Randy's considered by many to be one of the key influencers and architects of heavy metal music. And, you know, it's clear Randy's got some great talent, but he's also had some of the absolute worst luck. His solo album, Population 2, reportedly had only 88 copies pressed at the time. But many people doubt that number. Dylan over at Noble Records thinks it's probably closer to 200 or 300 copies pressed. To me, that number feels incredibly low, but, Dylan spends a lot of time swimming in those waters, so whatever the true number is, we'll probably never know. But because of that number, Population 2 is amongst the most sought-after albums for collectors of heavy and early psych and rock music. But luckily, we have some great reissues, and we still have Randy, who released Population 3, the follow-up to Population 2, a few years ago through Riding Easy Records. So today, Randy gives us a very detailed and candid interview about his music, the records, the crap he had to deal with early in his career, what happened during the break, and of course, the continued appreciation for his work. Now, you can get a reissue of Population 2 and get a copy of Population 3 through Riding Easy Records. They're doing another series of beautiful reissues of Population 2 this month, so make sure you are following Riding Easy Recs. They may have the link up now, but you could definitely order a copy through your local record shop or through Noble Records online. I'll put the link in this episode page. And one quick thing before we get to the interview, just to let you know, there is a very extended version of this interview available only to our Patreon legends at patreon.com/vinylguide. If you like this show and what we do, you can help support us and buy me a beer and a burrito each month over at patreon.com/vinylguide. I give all sorts of free stuff, extra stuff up there as well, including today. There's going to be a high-res, ultra-long version of this interview, another half hour of Randy telling stories and giving details, talking records, rare recordings, and more. So that's patreon.com/vinylguide. Head up there, help support the show, and enjoy all the extras. All right, let's talk Population 2, Population 3, and more with Mr. Randy Holden. Randy, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. It's an absolute honor, and good to see you in good spirits there. Now you're living in Thailand now, yeah? How long have you been there?
Almost a year now.
Okay.
I really like it here.
It's beautiful.
I have a nice little jungle hideaway by the beach, and it's great.
Well, you've created quite a legacy for yourself, and I'm keen to jump into that. And there's another reissue coming out of Population 2. Now, we'll jump into your early works, but does it surprise you that your work, especially Population 2, remains so popular and influential after all these years?
It really does. In one way, it really does. And another way, I thought a long time ago when I was doing it, that it was going to be very big. I just felt that. I can't tell you why, but there was nothing like it at the time. And I recorded that in 1970. But yeah, it does surprise me. And I'm thrilled about it. There was a 15-year-old kid from Australia, and this is about 15 years ago. He contacted me and said he built a site on Wikipedia for me. I said, really? That was pretty wild and crazy. Really interesting. So many interesting people out there.
So Population 2 came out, and it I guess it had a record company behind it, Hobbit Records,
Well,
which did nothing for it.
no, they totally dropped the ball, blew everything. I mean, it was like dropping a nuke on me. We had everything ready to go, perform live. We were well rehearsed. Sun Amplifiers was sponsoring me, and they were promoting it with magazine ads every month. And there were promoters all over the country that wanted to book a show, but they needed to have the album out. But Hobbit Records, they kept telling me, well, it'll be 30 days. That went on for 8 or 9 months until I finally just flat out ran out of money. And everything just folded in. Uh, and they would not let me out of the contract. They just utterly refused. So they effectively murdered my musical career. So they wouldn't release the record and wouldn't let me out of the contract. What do you do?
Who was Hobbit Records, and how did you get connected with them?
Well, I got connected up to a fellow named Peter Burke, who originally started my publishing company for me. And his cousin was Les Brown Jr., and he was with this company, Hobbit Records, and they were all gung ho to sign me up. And they put some money in it, so I thought, well, they've got skin in the game, they'll do it. They were a new and small label. But the owner, his name was Leonard Poncher, and he just didn't have he was clueless. They had no idea what they had with me. They just didn't know. They didn't understand.
Were these record guys, or were they in it from a different business trying to get into the record game?
Well, Leonard Poncher was formerly into Latino music. I guess that was in the 60s or something like that, maybe the 50s. So he had some musical background, but basically he was an auto parts retail wholesaler. So he made a lot of money doing that. I guess he liked music, but he had no clue what I was doing musically.
Right.
Mhm. And I was right on the edge of that at that time, creating a new form of music. And somebody called it heavy metal back then. And that's what I was doing. But I couldn't get my album out, and I just had no money. So I had a friend who owned a music store. I said, Johnny, I got a little bit of a problem here. I've got no money and nowhere to go, but I'd like to go to Hawaii. Would you loan me $1,000 to get there?
Mm-hmm.
And he did. So I left for Hawaii, and I ended up staying there for about 12 years or so.
Oh, okay.
And
He loaned you enough for a one-way ticket.
yep, it was a non-returnable trip, and that was fine with me. I was very depressed over the musical business in those days because they just failed on every level you could possibly fail on, and it was very unpleasant. It was just damn downright depressing, to be honest. Matter of fact, I even became suicidal over it because there was something I was preparing for a long time and really wanted to do it. 'Cause I love to get on stage and perform live. But to me, that was the reason for living. And they just cut me off from all of that, and without a conscious thought.
Mm.
Mind blowing. Lovers of money and self rather than what they were representing. Too bad. It's where the cookie gets crushed on.
It seems so strange that they would put all this money into you recording it and see the machine that you had behind you with Sun amps and everything, and then just completely fall on their face on the last the last step, which is just distributing the record.
I had no idea what was going on. They wouldn't tell me. I only learned a couple of years ago that the problem was Lenny Poncher got in a suit with MCA, who was the biggest distributor in the world at that time. And that was a really stupid thing to do. He was very pompous. Poncher was. I mean, in the music business, you don't get into a lawsuit because it ties you up for years, you know? And you don't have years in that business
Yeah.
unless you can really cut through the big Gordian knot, you know? So that's basically what happened.
So, what do you remember about recording Population 2? Just kind of take us through that and some of those memories you have, and maybe some of the details that we may not be aware of.
Well, it was pretty straightforward. The recording went fairly smooth. I overdubbed the bass on it because the keyboard and pedal board were not getting good tones. So I overdubbed the bass using a Fender Jazz bass through the gear I had. And I used maybe, I think it was, as I recall, I used 4 or maybe 8 amps to record. I don't know. But when I did the Blue Cheer album, there was Hank Sicalo was the engineer at this particular studio called Amigo. And he was very creative. And he did a thing with recording my guitar where he put one mic right on the speaker cone, another one right in front of the amp, and then another one about 10 feet away from it. So there were 3 different tones you would get by mixing the 3 of them together. And it really was an excellent way to do it. So it was, I was satisfied with what we had gotten. And until it went out for for mastering, I had a really good mix of it. And I did something in those days nobody had ever done yet, which was I figured that everybody would be hearing this through their car radios. And in those days, recording studios had gigantic monitoring systems. So if you played something back, it sounded great no matter what it was. And I thought, that's not the way to do this. The way to do it is get a couple of small oval speakers like we're in automobiles and a little automobile amp and mix it through that. So that's what I did. And it turned out fabulous. I mean, all the dynamics were in it, the highs and the lows, and it was really sweeping. And it got sent out for mastering. In those days, I knew utterly nothing about mastering. I just presumed that you sent it there because they make it better. I don't know how they did that or anything about the process. And that was too bad because that ignorance really cost me. What they ended up doing was cutting off all the highs and the lows, destroyed the dynamics completely, made it a humdrum mumble sound. I was sick when I heard it back. I thought, for a long time, I thought it was my fault that I had deluded myself into thinking it sounded great. I didn't realize what had happened. It wasn't until many years later I read a thing where Beatty was talking about when he was mixing Bonnie and Clyde. Well, he did all the mixing. He got it great, and he sent it out for mastering, and they wrecked it. And he just blew up. He knew exactly what happened. They cut off all the highs and lows and just made it just a monotone humdrum. And he was really pissed off about it. And he demanded it go back out. And if I recall, he went in the mastering room and actually directed it, which is something I should have done. I just didn't have enough knowledge at all. But the objective of the mastering outfits in those days was to prevent the needle on the record from skipping. So they would cut off all the frequencies, highs and lows that might cause that. And in the process, they destroyed the whole sound. Just fantastic how something like that can get so messed up. But in the new release, we got some great people to redo it, and they made it very nice. It's good. I'm happy with it.
That's excellent.
So that was the major mess with that album. So, but while I was on Hobbit, they never released it. When I ran out of money, I mean, it wasn't like I was bankrupt where you can go file chapter this or chapter that. When I'm bankrupt, I don't have 2 pennies to rub together. That's bankrupt to me.
So back in the day, they gave you a bit of a test press. You did the recording, and then they send you kind of a test press. Here's what the record's going to sound like, or were they final records that they gave you?
No, they did a test pressing and an acetate, and God, it was awful. And I have no idea what Hobbit had done with it, though. Like I said, because I ran out of money before I could. There was no way to follow up on anything.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, I was just figuring out where to sleep at night. And my amps all got taken and sold off in a music store. That wasn't good news. And I was trying to put it all back together. I had a record label that wanted to sign me, a young guy named Al Schmidt. And he was very good. And he was the engineer for Jefferson Airplane at the time. So he was a knowledgeable guy. And I would have loved to have signed with him. But he said, I need to get out of the Hobbit contract before he could sign me. And Hobbit wouldn't let me out of the contract. Boy, you talk about a quandary.
Mm.
Otherwise, the world would have gone totally different.
Were you living in the Bay Area at this time? Where were you at physically?
No, I was living in L.A.
Was Hobbit based out of L.A.?
Yes.
What do you remember about the packaging, the picture on the cover, some of the back artwork? Do you remember that coming together?
Yeah. I was interested in astronomy, and I had this fabulous book on astronomy. I was reading through it one day, and it had these star groups called heavy metal star galaxies. I went, wow. And they had three types: population 1, population 2, and population 3. And I thought, well, population 2, that's a good concept. Use that image as an overlay behind the image of the album cover. And I thought that's what Michael Bryant was the artist putting together the cover. And that's what I asked him to do. But instead, he took a bunch of speed and stayed up all night and put every one of those little dots in by hand.
Oh.
I thought, man, you got to be nuts. And there was no reason to have done that, but that's what he did. And then after the album cover art was done, a bit later on, I thought I should do something else. So we did a whole other shoot for an album cover. And I think it really would have been good. It was just a simple photograph of myself and then Chris, my side guy who was working with me. And it was a great photograph. It was just very rock and roll. And that's what I wanted to use. But by that time, everything fell apart. And Hobbit did whatever they were going to do eventually. So they just used all the original art that they had. And I really don't know what happened with any of it after that. I had read somewhere a long time ago that the album had exchanged hands many times for a lot of money. But I don't know who with what. And I know it was bootleg more times than you can count.
So let me ask you this. You do Population 2. You have frustrations with Hobbit Records. You decide to take a break. You go to Hawaii. It sounds like you weren't even sure how long you would stay in Hawaii, but it ended up being over a decade.
I figured I had nowhere to turn.
Yeah.
And I thought, over there you can catch fish or live off the fruit that falls off of trees, bananas, mangoes, and what. So I wouldn't starve, and you didn't have an electric bill because you didn't need heat, and you didn't need clothes. So economically, it was feasible.
Did you bring your guitar with you? Did you still play guitar at that point, or did you just really
I
want to
brought
get
my
away from
guitar with me,
Okay.
but I never played it. There was only one time in 14 years, I think I was there. Only one time I played it. A friend of mine, Japanese friend of mine, we had a little bit too much Jack Daniels one night. Went to a club and he asked the band if I could sit in. I didn't know he was doing that. And he said, he comes up to me and says, "Hey man, get your guitar out because these guys want you to sit in." I said, "Are you serious?" He says, "Yeah, let's do it. Quick, hurry." And I'm drunk as a skunk, but I did it. I got up, and the first thing I did, of course, was put the amp up on almost 10 or more. And I started playing, and the people went nuts. They were jumping on tables, screaming, dancing, just wow. I It blew me away. I didn't expect that at all. But they loved it. And I thought that's dangerous because I'll fall in love with it again. And I won't be able to do anything about it. So I put the guitar away and I didn't unpack it for another God knows how long. I think it was 1991. Oh, this fellow in New York, his name was Randy Pratt. He had been hunting me down for like 4 years, talking to everybody I had ever known. And he finally found me. I thought he was a CIA at first. I mean, who's going to track you down for 4 years? What did I do? Did I do something I messed up? What's happening? And he just said he was a huge fan and he wanted to give me a guitar as a gift so I'd record again. I didn't believe him at first. And he kept calling me on and off for about a year. And finally, I decided I'll accept the guitar. And when I got it, and I started playing, it was like I fell in love with it all over again.
Enough time had passed where you felt okay with it then.
Yeah, I loved it again. And consequently, I made another album, which ended up being called Guitar God. And it was a pretty decent album. I was happy with it. And I made a few more after that. But I remember when I was making Population 2, there was something disturbing that was going on, which was I could hear subliminally, I heard what someone might call evil or devil music. I heard discordant sound everywhere I went. And I thought, Jesus, maybe I'm losing my mind and going to hell. Did I really screw up that bad? And I couldn't figure out why it was happening. And then one day I think I was at my mom's house, and I was hearing that sound again continuously wherever I went. And I looked up at the ceiling fan, and I thought to myself, is it even remotely possible it's coming from that? So I got a chair and got up under the fan. The closer I got, the louder the discordant sound became. And the light bulb went on big time. I thought, oh my God, I'm hypersensitive and I'm hearing harmonics that are discordant because machinery, no matter how perfected, it's got a wobble in it. It has these eerie sounds that it makes. And I realized I was just hearing the sounds of city. And I was hearing all the machinery that is a city house in it. Now, back in the old days, like when Chuck Berry was in it, he was hearing the locomotive and the truck, and that's where the rock and roll came from, that beat. Mm-hmm. Quite a while before that, it was horses galloping. So these different sounds and rhythms come with the people hear them subliminally, but don't know they're hearing them. But this is where our music comes from. And at that point in time, that's where I was hearing all this discordant stuff. And I started writing stuff that had that discordant, slow, evil sound, I guess. People were calling it evil. I thought it was really interesting. And I wanted to do something totally different. I think I did. And when we played live the few times we did, people seemed to love it.
So your main influence was a ceiling fan.
Yeah, or any machine. Like I had a diesel engine in my boat, and I had a pretty good sized sailboat, and I used the motor a lot. And anytime I would lay down and start to go to sleep or something, I would hear all this musical sound this engine was making.
Mhm.
Oh my God, was it bizarre? And yeah, that's where the music influence came for me to do this Population 2 album.
Well, that that kind of makes sense because as humans, ancestrally we are hunters and we're used to being aware of our environments, listening for threats, and trying to create patterns. Is that a tree branch snapping or is that a footstep? And our brain looks to sew those things together. It's for survival. And it sounds like your brain stitched it together again, kind of got those ominous, it interpreted a machine wobble as voices or as dissident music because that's what your brain was looking for.
Yeah. And I think I was a very hypersensitive person. And I eventually had a psychologist when I was going through some serious stuff. And he explained to me that I was hypervigilant and hypersensitive. So that's how I was able to perceive these sounds, which that became very interesting to me because I finally understood what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. But I'm surprised you could hear anything with how loud your amps were.
Oh, that's perfect there.
Did you have to use ear protection? Because you had reportedly
No.
some of the loudest amps of the time.
Yeah, they were. And no, I did not use ear protection. That to me would have been blasphemy. I loved it loud. I mean, it felt good. What can I tell you? It just was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And there is one occasion, just one, where I used to put align my guitar pickup with the speaker at about a 2 foot distance to hit a special note that would go into a high pitched feedback to sound like a bomb dropping, which I do that at the end of Population 2. And that's where I used it. And once I got a little bit too close to the amp, and it was like I was hit with a baseball bat from behind. I dropped to the floor. I mean, I was just knocked down by that high frequency sound. It was crazy,
Wow.
but it really happened. And wow, I found that amazing.
Who were the guitarists that you were listening to and influenced by? Did you get to see Hendrix by chance?
Yeah. I mean, I met him after we recorded Population 2.
Okay.
Well, I heard all the new bands were coming out. Like, for example, when, and of course, I knew Jeff Beck, and the Cream played their first show at the Whiskey, and they had these brand new Marshall amps, and they were just fabulous. I mean, there's no other word for it. It was so exciting. I thought, oh my God, I gotta get me some of these. Where do I get them? And let's see, later, Led Zeppelin performed at the Whiskey too at their first show in America. And they sounded like utter crap. But they were using this Rickenbacker trash for amps. They sounded so bad. It was terrible. But their album was a huge hit, so it really didn't affect anything other than they sounded horrible. The recording sounded great, but live they were terrible because the amps. I guess, it's like Rickenbacker must have been sponsoring him, and that's why Jimmy did it instead of going out and spending a pile of money on big amps or on the new Marshalls that came out. And I was always interested in big, loud amps. So when I finally got a couple of stacks of Marshalls, I put JBL D120 speakers in them. Oh my God. That just changed the whole universe.
Mm.
Those things sounded so beautiful. It was unbelievable. And I used a Gibson SG at the time. And I got a really good sound out of them. I
Hmm.
used to do a thing where before I joined up with Blue Cheer, I was in the other half. And I used to do a thing where I'd link all of our amps together. We had 5 dual Showmans. I'd link them all together and do a solo on stage for about 15 or 20 minutes. It was just a blast to do it. I loved doing it. And the audience just went nuts. They loved it. I never could quite figure that out. I didn't get it, but I got it from the standpoint that I was playing and I really loved doing it. Um, I thought this is not something you can record, I don't think, because it's not like a song. It was just playing guitar really loud. And I continued to do that while I was with Blue Cheer. And then ultimately I got sponsored by Sun. They gave me as many amps as I wanted. And eventually I saw situations where I'd use probably 50 or more. It was exciting because I loved that. I just loved the big sound that could be made. It just turned me on major.
Were you aware of some of the other artists that were starting to kind of do this type of heavy music at the time, like Black Sabbath or what Tony Iommi was doing? Were you aware of that?
No, I didn't come aware of that till later. When the Population 2 album wasn't released and it kept being delayed, they came out with I guess their first album. And I didn't know who they were, but I remember they had this one song that is scary as hell. Something about what is this that stands before me?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's, I mean, I listened to that and said, wow, that's totally nuts.
Yeah.
And I realized they were playing horror rock. Like the old Boris Karloff movies.
So you were playing in San Francisco and California during the Summer of Love with the other half. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sons of Adam and then other half.
Okay.
I love playing the San Francisco gigs. They had these old ballrooms that were begun during the speakeasy era. And when they finally shut down, they came back again in World War II for the big bands. And then that faded up. Now they got reused for rock and roll shows. And is the best venue you possibly have because the acoustics were so good. All these old wooden buildings, they just absorbed the sound and it vibrated through the floor right into you. It's wonderful.
Hmm.
You could turn it up louder than hell. And it sounded great.
Now, the other half, the recorded works of the other half are also extremely collectible. You were on all those records, even the Mr. Pharmacist single?
Yeah. I really didn't have any soul of attachment to that band. Everybody was too interested in being a rock and roll star instead of being the creation of serious art. And I was art serious minded. And so I couldn't stay I didn't even stay. I barely made it through the recordings. I didn't care what I played. I just wanted to get out of there, and I had nothing to do with the mixing. When I heard it back, I went, what a pile of rubbish. They just wrecked that as well as they could. And they did things like try to put jokes in that weren't funny and artificial laughter. And I'm like, God, who would do such a thing? Then they overdubbed some kind of goofy piano on one song. And then other songs, they turned my guitar down and turned the rhythm guitar up real loud. It was such a mess. It did not represent the band at all. But unusually enough, people seem to like it a lot. You never know what people are going to like, I guess. I just never liked it personally.
Yeah. And by then you were starting to make a real name for yourself just as a guitarist. I mean, you were offered the chance to replace Jeff Beck in the Yardbirds. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was. I often wonder throughout life since that time, how the world might have changed had I done that. I really, and one side of me really wanted to do it because I knew all their songs, effortlessly would have been for me. And, but I didn't really know if it was true that he was really going to quit or not. And I didn't want to step on the man's feet by coming in, oh, here's a new guitarist going to replace you. I didn't want to hurt him because I thought it possibly could. And then on the other hand, could have made a fool out of myself at the same time. I didn't want to do any of that. So I decided, no, I'm not going to go down and do the show. Turned out he actually did quit. And then Jimmy Page took over for his place. That was interesting.
Okay. So Jimmy Page was the guy they called when you said no.
Yeah.
Okay. With Population 2, you recorded the song Fruit and Icebergs, which is one that you recorded for Blue Cheer just earlier. Were those Blue Cheer songs, those three that you had with Blue Cheer, were those kind of solo ones you were working on and then worked them into Blue Cheer?
They were songs I'd written before I joined Blue Cheer.
Okay. That's what it sounded like.
I walked out in the middle of the album because I was promised by the management my tour earnings would be given to me at the end of the tour, which was supposed to be about $16,000. In those days, that was a lot of money. And instead, I was told my money went to pay the band's back taxes that were incurred before I joined them. Well, that didn't really sit with me right. And Jerry, the manager, had burned up all the money and was a junkie, and he got Paul into being a junkie and Dickie, and it's like, I guess there was just no longer any communication, so we couldn't get together and say, Jerry, you're fired, because they were all junkie pals,
Right.
And when you form a confidence with somebody who's a junkie, you're not open to anything else. And when and he gave me $500 instead of the $16,000, and I was like, no, I saw the writing on the wall. It was over. I just went to the studio and plugged my guitar and left, and that was the end of that. So I'd never finished the album. I was surprised they even put it out, to tell you the truth. I didn't expect that. Ended up selling more. It was the second best-selling album Blue Cheer had done to that point. I was a little surprised at that too.
Well, so many people love that second side, which is just all your material.
Yeah.
And once you left Blue Cheer, how long was it before Hobbit Records was knocking at your door?
Not long. Not long at all. Chris came around first, I believe. He said he saw my last show at Blue Cheer in Stockton, California, and heard I needed a drummer. So he came by and applied for the position. He said he also played keyboard. I said, well, and I don't know where this idea came from, but that's kind of like how I am. I said, well, can you play both at the same time? And he said, yeah, I can do that. I said, really? Okay, then let's do it. And that's how that happened. I thought it would be interesting to have a two-piece band because I already had the sponsorship with Sun, and for two guys to make this monstrous sound, I thought that would be crazy.
Yeah.
I thought that would be. And one part of it was gimmicky, and I had no doubt about that. It was a gimmick. And I got to say, it was not as much fun as playing with a bass player. I didn't like the tone the keyboards got. But Lee Michaels, he did a two-piece thing. You know who Lee Michaels was? He's an organ player.
Not sure, no.
Oh, he had his song called Do You Know What I Mean? Something like that. And it was him and a drummer named Frosty. But Lee got this really nice sound for bass pedals. So I was thinking as soon as we made some money, I was going to get one of those to improve our bass sound and but never got that far.
How often did you guys play live as a two-piece?
Somebody said we did about 4 gigs. I remember 3. Not sure where the other fourth one was. But yeah, well, I got a gig in Hawaii to play the HIC, Hawaiian International Center, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And also the Crater Festival. And about 50,000 people came to that. And the HIC gig, we did our sound check before going on, and it was really good. We were just like spot on. I thought, we're going to do it with this. And just when I was going on stage, this guy wanted to manage me, a black guy named Joey Southern. He jumps in and he says, "Hey, I can put a mic on the amp so it goes through this PA and it'll be really loud." And I went, "Oh, cool, let's do that." Stupid with a capital S. Everything started feeding back so bad. There was no control, nothing I could do. And I was trying to scream at him to unplug that damn thing. And apparently he couldn't hear me and he couldn't figure out what to do. I'm stuck up there on stage trying to fake it through this monstrosity of feedback, and my pants are falling down. I'm like, oh, good God, not now, please. It was a fiasco. Anyways, funnily enough, about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, a guy came in, my wife and I's art gallery on Laguna Beach, and he said he saw me at that show. And he said he thought we were fabulous. I'm like, really? I thought we were the worst we'd ever been. And yet, here's some guy telling me he thought we were fabulous. What do you say? What do you do? I guess, you never know.
Yeah. Well, there's always the possibility that there were some extra chemicals in him that made that.
Yeah, and undoubtedly, because the whole place was chemical to death. Everybody in the whole place.
So you only played a handful of shows as a two-piece. Do you know if any of those were recorded or many images or anything were captured?
There's some photographs, but I don't know about any recordings. The on top bill for the Crater Festival was Santana. I think it was in 1971. And one thing that really stood out to me was when I got on stage, the stage was really wobbly. It was like threatening to have the amplifiers all come tumbling down. It was that bad. So I had to be very careful about moving around. I couldn't jump around and do anything at all.
Mm.
And so I had another feedback problem then too. And I just started jamming, faking it instead of playing our rehearsed material.
Right.
It was very weird.
So at that time, you got frustrated with the music industry. The record label was being a pain. You checked out for several years. Were you aware of the legend that was growing around your name and your work, and specifically Population 2?
Not at all. I had no clue. I never listened to music while I was the whole time I was in Hawaii. I just did that one, just jumped on stage that one time. That was it.
Hmm.
I just wanted to be I was so depressed about the music business and what it did to wreck my life. I just didn't want to hear about music anymore. So no, I didn't hear anything about anything until this guy, Randy Pratt, hunted me down. It turns out his father was a CEO for Pfizer Drugs. So he used all of their communication equipment to hunt me down.
Hmm.
That was pretty weird.
So he has a conversation with you and he says, "Randy, I don't know if you know, but there's a lot of people here talking about you and your music's collectible." What was your reaction to that?
I was shocked. He said there were T-shirts out that said Randy Holden Guitar God, and that my album was prized collector's items if anybody could get them, and just on and on and on. He said I had a huge following, and are you kidding me? I had no clue.
And
but
this is the late 90s, 95, 96, around there, yeah?
I think it's around 91,
Hmm.
maybe 92.
Okay. So he gives you the news. Maybe it takes a while for you to absorb it. And then
Yeah.
how do you get to the point to where you're playing guitar again?
Well, he sent me this guitar. It was an ugly damn thing. It was a hammer. It was painted with black and white stripes. It was weird looking. I couldn't stand how it looked, but it played really nice. Played really well. And so I used that to record an album. I got in touch with my old CPA from Blue Cheer at his office on Wilshire Boulevard. So he was up among the big guys. And I said, I'd like to do a new album, Hal, but I need some backing. So he backed it. And then Randy Pratt said he also sold his bass collection for $7,000 to throw in the kitty. And so I guess it came up to around 40 grand. I had to put together a band, in which I contacted Paul as my first choice for a drummer. And he was living in Germany at the time. So I flew over and met with him, and we started rehearsing for the album. He had a bass player lined up for us. And so we did that. And that was a really interesting time. I loved playing again. It was just a ball. I just loved it. And Paul was playing pretty good, but he wasn't being everything he could be. And I kept trying to push him. Come on, man, you can do a lot more than what you're doing. You're one of the greatest drummers in the world, so please do it. And after we finished the album, he came to me and said, I should have done more like you were trying to get me to do. I really regret not doing that. And so well, it's a hell of a time to figure that out, Paul.
There's several albums there. Guitar God 2001, Raptor, Psychedelic Blue. Those are all on CD. Do you know if those are going to eventually make it to vinyl at any point?
I don't know if Daniel, he owns Writing Easy Records, or yeah, and he's a great guy. I just love that guy. He was just over here. We spent 5 days together, and it was a blast. He's such a honest, upfront, cool guy. I never come across anybody in the music business like him. So I consider him one of my dearest friends now. And we just get on really great. And anybody who has corgis can't be a bad guy.
So that sounds like a conversation that you and Daniel will probably have at some point. I understand Population 2, the reissue, came about because of a conversation you had with Dylan Smith of Noble Records. Is that right?
That's right. Dylan contacted me about doing an interview, and he told me about Daniel. And there were a lot of guys hitting me up to want to do a release of the album, but I just didn't like what any of them were saying. Their interest was not musically oriented. They wanted to make some quick bucks, and that's just not where I come from. And so I couldn't accept anything. And so Dylan contacted Daniel, I guess, and Daniel contacted me, and I was leery at first, but I finally made a deal with Daniel, and what can I say? He is just a total sweetheart. He's dear to my heart. And he released the album, and he did a great job of it. And now he's made a couple of pressings of it, and they've all sold out. And he wants to do the special reissue that has all kinds of stuff with it, like a signed certificate of authenticity and a rolling papers. Randy Holden Population 2. That's funny. And T-shirt, and God only knows what else he's going to do with it. But as far as I'm concerned, Daniel can do anything he wants. He knows what he's doing, and he does a good job with whatever he does.
He's a good dude.
He is a very good dude, the best.
So when it came to you doing Population 3, were there any nerves in making what is essentially the next chapter of your most renowned work?
Did you say nerves?
Yeah. Nerves, or what were your thoughts going into that?
Well, the idea was to do an album that would have been a natural follow-up to Population 2. That was the idea. And Randy Pratt, he wrote a bunch of bass and drum organ riffs he put together. And he said I could use anything I wanted out of it. And I chose a few and made those songs out of them. And they turned out pretty good, I thought. And I don't even remember what the album sounds like anymore. I haven't heard it in a long time.
Mm.
But as I recall, I liked how it turned out.
It's a good record. I was listening today.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the songs? Do you recall offhand? Because I don't.
Well, I'm not great with song names, but there's a Sands of Time, I think.
Oh, yeah, right.
Land
Got
of the
it.
Sun.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. And it does seem like a logical extension of Population 2. So yeah.
Oh, good. Well, that was the intent. I never really knew if we succeeded or not. And I mean, golly, you do an album and then 50 some years later, you want to do a follow up. It's like, oh, okay. How's that work? So we figured it out and it happened. And yeah, that Land of the Sun, that's a really cool piece. I like that one. It takes you away.
Those two albums, Population 2 and Population 3, they really form kind of the heart and soul of what's come known as doom metal or doom rock. What do you think? What do you think of that phrase, doom metal, doom rock?
I don't know what to think of that. It's obvious it implies horror stuff or death or whatever. I don't know. I really don't know what to think of that. What do you think of it?
Well, I've heard it, in various contexts, but I think of something big and lumbering and shaking the house. I don't.
Okay, there you go.
I don't think of it as scary necessarily, but maybe a little confronting.
Okay, I'll accept that. That's more or less how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I didn't really think of it as something scary or Boris Karloff-y or anything like that. I think you explained it very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people are going to label things whatever they're going to label them. You never know what they're going to do.
Well,
Yeah.
And you're not in control of it, but a lot of people recognize you as one of the fathers of doom metal, particularly with Population 2.
Yeah, I've heard that. And I understand why. And I was actually doing that, creating that before anybody else was, with the exception of Black Sabbath. And they were fortunate enough to have their album released where I wasn't. And I thought they did a pretty good job of doing what it was that they were doing.
But besides the test pressing that you got of Population 2, did Hobbit send you a box of records? Did they did you get any? They just, okay.
No, I got nothing. I had one copy and I had a meeting with Warner Brothers who was interested in signing me. So they wanted to hold on to the copy and talk about it. And I never heard back from them. And by that time, I couldn't hang around anymore. I had no more money. I was out.
On your way to Hawaii. Yeah.
I had to go somewhere. Thought about going to Belize. I didn't speak Spanish.
One of the things we were trying to figure out is how many were made initially. Someone said a figure of less than 100, which I think is crazy. They all have the drill hole in them. You're aware of that, yeah?
I heard about that. I don't really know what it means, other than it's supposed to be an original pressing, I guess.
It typically means, as I understand, when there's a drill hole through record, it's kind of a discount thing or something that people are clearing out, or they can't return. Record stores used to be able to return records that they didn't sell.
and a
And
drill hole or a cut on the corner meant you couldn't return it. But you bought it at a discount.
yeah, I
or
don't know
something.
anything about that stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
I think there in those days, I think 5,000 was the minimum you could do. That's what I heard. Anyway, doesn't seem to matter one way or the other.
Well, I think these ones that are coming out with Riding Easy have been remastered to a point where they sound better than an original anyway.
Yeah, they turned out sounding pretty good.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine in New York, excellent engineer. He remastered it. And then Smokey Taylor did some initial remastering as well.
You don't have a guitar with you. Is your guitar playing days over?
Well, actually, I do have a guitar. The person I rent from, her name's Pim, and she brought a guitar over to me one day, and it's in my house. And I pick it up every once in a while if there's something I think of I want to know something about, like a chord structure or something. But I have a problem playing because my fretboard ring finger was broken some years back, and I can't bend it anymore. So it's really stunted my ability to play because it's probably the most important finger on your hand. And I was saving my wife from falling totally backwards. She's going to crush her skull on a stone floor. And I hurried and got my hand behind her neck and I put my finger straight down. When I did that, it hit the floor and crushed the first knuckle and just into a bunch of pieces. And could not surgically be repaired even with microsurgery. So the bone doctor told me. So that's really impaired my ability to play. And that sucks because there are times I really want to play and I can't do it. What happens is that finger will stay straight. So any other finger strings beneath it that I might want to be heard, it doesn't happen. It mutes everything out. And that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like your tremolo finger, kind of, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, big time. So that's very frustrating.
Well, Randy, you've really had created such an amazing legacy for yourself. People will be speaking your name after you're gone. What do you want them to say about you?
I just hope I bring people a lot of happiness and joy and knowledge. I can pass something on from this world. When you die, it's like such a natural, important, has to be event. We don't like doing it probably because of the pain we associate with the idea. But there used to be this idea that the church came up with that before Eve took the bite of the apple, people live forever, and death was brought in by that partaking of the forbidden fruit. Well, what makes that so totally unbelievable is the fact that because the earth is round and has a finite surface, if you could reproduce and never die, well, it wouldn't take long that this place would be one mucky place you wouldn't want to live in. So, yeah, I don't buy any of that stuff.
We'd still be dealing with Genghis Khan.
Oh, God. It would just be a mess. It would be a mess beyond your imagination. If you couldn't die, but yet you can create babies continuously, where's that going to lead to? God said, well, I'm sorry, but you got to die.
Yep.
And I figure the universe is gigantic and beyond enormity of comprehensibility that you cannot look up at the sky and think, oh, we're the only ones here. Or even ask the question, are we the only ones here? I mean, what an egocentric, screwed up thought that is. Of course, the whole place is full of life of all kinds. It can't not be otherwise. I mean, imagine you're here. How'd that happen? So you're going to be here again, some form, some way or other. All that makes you up and all that you are, well, doesn't matter if trillions of years pass. It's going to remanifest somehow or other. It's inevitable. The law of probability says that's a fact. So I'm not afraid of death. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't want to, that doesn't mean I'm looking forward to having a lot of pain, because I don't want that either.
Right.
So nobody does, except for maybe some masochists.
Well, not a whole lot of people are able to create these works that will outlive them and continue to bring happiness and to influence moods of people years after they're gone. So, certainly
that would please me very much if I could accomplish that. That would be such the ultimate blessing in my mind.
Well, that's a certainty. That's definitely going to happen. Your works are set up in such a way to where they will continue to be listened after you're gone, after I'm gone, beyond. And there's been some lucky things between you and Dylan and Daniel that have since enabled that. Maybe that wouldn't have happened 20 years ago, but now you're kind of set up to have that legacy go beyond you.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing, Nate. It just amazes me. It's what I always wanted. I always wanted to leave music that would affect people on one emotional level or another. I used to love playing live. I just put all the amps together and play a solo in front of thousands of people. That just flicked my cigarette lighter really heavy. I loved that. That was a blast. And I'd do it purposefully to manipulate people's emotions into feeling all these highs and lows and tell stories. To me, playing music is like a movie. When I hear music, I see movies going on. Pieces like Land of the Sun, that's a full-on theatrical drama to me. That's how I think of music.
When you play, do you see like colors? What do you imagine as you play?
It's like another world. It's like another world. I'm somewhere that I don't know where it comes from, but when I'm tuned into it, it's like it feels so 100,000% natural and exactly what I should be doing. And I've had moments in music where it's just been utterly heavenly to me. And if people can get that out of it, you couldn't thrill me more. That's what I want to give people.
Well, it's there for the taking. So, Randy, thank you so much for spending time with me, man. It's been a great conversation, and I do need to thank you for those records. Population 2 and Population 3 are absolutely wonderful. Congratulations on another reissue of Population 2. More and more people are going to get to hear it again. And I'm going to encourage folks, if they don't have a copy of Population 2 and 3, grab them at Riding Easy Records. I'll put the links in this episode page. Randy, you be well, man. You take care of yourself, all right? We want to see you on your hind legs for years to come.
Well, thank you very much, Nate. It's been a sheer pleasure for me to talk with you this morning. So you have a wonderful remainder to your day.
You too, man.
Thank you. Okay.
Cheers. See you, man.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Oh, man, what an absolutely lovely dude. Very honored to have Mr. Randy Holden on the show. And by the way, just a quick reminder, there's an extra 30 or so minutes of this conversation only available to our Patreon legends, patreon.com/vinyl guide. You want to head up there now, help support the show. You'll be able to enjoy all the extras in high resolution and, of course, helping keep this show going. And if you don't have a copy of Population 2 on vinyl, fear not. There's another reissue coming at Riding Easy Records. Make sure you're following them on social media so you'll know exactly when the pre-order button goes up. Or better yet, go bug your local record shop, get them to stock Population 2 and the whole Riding Easy catalog. Population 2 is a fantastic record. Every record shop should have a copy of Population 2. It's a timeless record I'm sure you'll enjoy. And that's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. Huge thanks to everyone who's sharing these episodes on social media, putting them on Facebook groups and Reddit forums. Those of you who are leaving positive reviews and comments in Apple Podcasts and Spotify, that's a huge help. Those of you who are supporting us at patreon.com/vinyl guide. Big kisses your way. Mwah. And we'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until we talk next time, you all behave yourselves. And thanks again for listening to the Vinyl Guide podcast. Cheers.